I don't know if you could see this.
There.
Okay.
All right, start from the beginning.
You know what's funny? Almost instantaneously. Now we're good. Yeah. And thank you everybody. Now I'm looking at my phone. My wife just came in. Nobody can hear you. There is no sound.
We have sound now. Okay. Well. Take two. Welcome to the Vaughn Agency, Ask the Expert. I'm Leticia Remauro, and I'm here with my partner, George Passariello. Together, we're the Vaughn Agency, and today we have a special guest. He is the Wizard of Finance. He is the master of taxes. He is so much a tax guy that, his nickname is My Tax Fella. Yeah, we know him as Anthony Mauriello, EA. Good morning. He's been doing our taxes for quite some time, but not just us, but he has a thriving practice here in Staten Island and New Jersey. And we thought that it would be great today to bring Anthony to you to discuss a little bit about the stimulus package and what it is, and is it a grant, is it a loan? Anthony will get into that, but before I let him speak, I just want to do a little disclaimer. Of course, this is for entertainment purposes and for some information, but you should consult with your accountant with any advice that you get on the show, or your lawyer if it so happens that it's something that needs legal clarification. Anthony certainly will talk about our and his involvement and what he believes is a great tax plan or what you should do, but you should always consult your own attorney and your own accountant. And if you don't have one, Anthony Mauriello is the greatest accountant that there is. So now that I've gotten that taken care of, Anthony, we had some time in the beginning where our audio was down, so we're going to have to go over, I think, a few things. We're going to have to repeat them. But what we were talking about was the confusion surrounding the stimulus grant, loan. What is it? Who should apply? So why don't you take us through the two different stimulus packages for small businesses?
Thank you much, Leticia. I'm not sure. I'm not sure in my prior arm waving and illustrations where it came to our attention that we lost that sound, but pretty much what we were explaining there was that a lot of people have come to us last week either
and if you don't have one, Anthony,
because they feel like they're missing out on something. And the buzzword was, I've applied for a grant, Anthony, get me a grant, I want a loan that's forgivable. There's so much confusion circling this SBA loan. It's not a grant, it's a loan. There are two options with which to choose from. And it just, like I said, there's a sense of feeling they're going to run out of money. I'm missing out. I'm waiting for my grant money to come. That we decided, hey, you know what? We really need to just explain this to people, because it's almost like what's that game where it's morphing. It's taking on a life of its own.
Yeah, telephone.
Yeah, and if you start with square one, there's enough confusion by the authors of these loans and the stimulus package. There's enough confusion here that when you compound that through the ripples of once it gets out to the public, there's so much confusion going around that we want to take a couple of minutes and set the record straight on these two loan packages. Okay, and I'll start with what people are under the impression of. People are under the impression that they want us to, or they think they have already applied for a $10,000 grant. Now, when this first came out, the interpretation was there's a 3-day wait period and a component of this loan that is a $10,000 grant. Upon further clarity, there's not. So there is a portion of it that may be deemed and become a grant. But what happens is, by going to that SBA website, and either if you've done it yourself, or if you're hiring us or somebody else to do it, or have a friend doing it, you're applying for a loan. And I think a lot of people don't understand the severity or the importance of applying for a loan. What the SBA has done is, hey, to encourage small businesses and to stop the screeching halt, they've decided what we're going to do is allow up to, not 10,000, but up to $10,000 to be advanced to you as an advance on your loan. Now, that is a loan starts here and it's advanced to you. Should you not qualify for this loan based on your credit to be advanced to you, this then becomes a grant as an advance however much they've fronted you, however much they've advanced you, is a loan based on their calculation of what they determine. Let's get it to you quickly while we do our underwriting process. If you either decide not to take the loan, if they decide, hey, you're not credit worthy for any reason, anything that they gave you is yours to keep. Okay, so that's where the seed of, I keep cutting you off.
No. I just want to get me clear. So if you have bad credit and you applied for this money and they gave you an advance and somehow or another you didn't qualify for the loan, it becomes a grant and you don't have to pay it back.
Correct. There are some strings attached to it. You can't stick this in your pocket and, hey, okay, well, that was great. There's got to be a full accountability of what's been done with the money, where it goes, and how it's being spent. Okay. Which will lead us to this. So this is what the SBA is calling an economic disaster injury relief loan, EDIL, and it's also known as the 7B of the two options. Okay. Both of these loans, the purpose of this is to business continuity. Okay. The first one, the 7B loan, is a loan, so that you're borrowing money to say, I need to continue my business. What the SBA is going to determine your business might vary from what you think it is, but they're wanting these loans to be used for things like payroll, so you can maybe retain your employees, your rent, if you own the building, a mortgage, not your personal one, but a mortgage, your utilities, any of your current payables. You could service those debts if you have an account payable. You can service this. What it's not to be used for is growth or expansion or refinancing any other loans. So that is to say, hey, this is up to $2 million. The SBA doesn't want to come along, give you $2 million, and then you're refinancing your building that might be at 4.25, 4.75. So you're not able to take this cheaper money and refinance a loan that you're currently in. You can service debt you have, but you cannot refinance out of it. Okay. There's also a component upon this package that offer you some tax credits. And those credits are very significant. They're up to, and they're based upon the first $10,000 of each employee's payroll. And they're going to give you as the employer a tax credit, which is pretty much equal to the Social Security and Medicare that you're paying on your employees. So again, our goal, and the goal, not ours, but the goal of the SBA is for you to retain, rehire, and keep your business intact, so much so that you can continue to be in business and continue to employ people. Okay.
So can somebody use some of these some of the small businesses are going to boom. We were just talking about how the small businesses are going to change. There are going to be some that are going to disappear, and then there are going to be some that are just going to boom, and because they're based in like digital or other reasons. So can someone use this loan to hire more employees? Can somebody expand their business and focus some of these on the payroll? Or is that a no?
Yes, you can certainly use it to hire and to get yourself some employees, without a doubt. Again, the true intention of this is for relief. So if you are in digital and you're anticipating, hey, we're going to be booming, and maybe this has not affected my business, to protect the integrity of the system, technically, you shouldn't apply for this, because this is a lower interest loan intended to help people in a disaster. So if you're thinking, hey, I'm going to grab this money to help myself ramp up, I know I'm producing face masks or digital or things like that. Technically, this shouldn't be for you because these funds are earmarked for disaster relief.
Okay.
And, you know, if you're outside of that disaster relief, you know, your moral compass should say, hey, you know what? Thank God I am working. I don't need to pursue this opportunity.
So, but you could discuss with your SBA lender a different type of loan then for expansion if you're in that business.
You could certainly explore other lending options. Yes. So this 7B, we are assisting clients fill out, qualify for, do their mathematic equations, package up everything that the SBA is going to need, because there's also an accountability once you're done. Like I said, you know, you can't just go kind of hog wild with this money or, hey, I want to leave it in my bank as a cushion. They want it to be deployed. Okay. That is directly through you, we, or me and the SBA, or hey, I want to leave it in my bank as a cushion. The 7A is backed by your local bank. Okay, so the SBA is assisting local banks with this vehicle and this product. And ultimately, if you're looking for that 7A, there are some outlets that will allow us to place these loans maybe with digital lenders or digital banks, you know. But for the most part here also, the goal is local, and the SBA is dealing with the bank. And for this payroll protection portion is something that you would want to go, again, we can help you fill out. There's calculations involved with how much you're going to go for. The 7A has an aspect that is forgivable. So this application and these forms we're going to want to fill out. We're going to want to make sure that they're filled out correctly, because there's a lot more accountability here than on a normal loan per se.
So is that the one where you need to put collateral and show that you have, you can back up your request for the loan?
Well, any
7A?
kind of, yes. The 7A has no collateral required. However, but with the 7A, so the component and the nice part about the 7A is that this is truly payroll protection. Okay, so what they're looking to do is encourage you to retain your employees or hire new employees. Okay, so what they're going to look at is the last 12 months of your operations. They're going to look at certain costs of your payroll, of your rent, of your utilities. When we get that to an average we're looking at the 12 months, we'll divide it by 12, and I'll find out what your monthly burden is. The SBA will then grant you or loan you 2.5 times the monthly calculation of these figures. So for instance, if that's $1,000, we're going to do let's say it's $1,000 times 12 months is $12,000. Divide that obviously by 12 is $1,000. Times that by 2.5 is $2,500. They're going to give you $2,500. And after 8 weeks, if you can illustrate that this was used as you said it would be used for these payroll, same number of employees, the same dollar amount of payroll or higher, this now becomes forgivable.
Ah.
So the beauty here is that you're applying for a loan, and the threshold here is they're going to allow you to get $10 million or 2.5 times your burden, the lesser of those two figures.
Okay.
So the SBA may say, okay, I mean, this is a very minuscule example I gave, but we're going to give you $2,500 after your loan package is underwritten and approved. In 8 weeks' time, we're going to need to illustrate to them that the money that we requested and earmarked was truly spent on what we said it would be spent for. We've retained the same number of employees. We've retained the same payroll expenses. They will then forgive that loan for what they've given you. So the beauty here is it's forgivable. There's no tax credits that come with that because they're ultimately going to be forgiving this loan. That you better look into, George, but we understand. Right. So yes and no. So it depends upon what you did last year. So you can't go for a loan, again, speaking to what you spoke about earlier, Leticia. The square one is to say, let's look at the last 12 months. And again, this is somewhat of a moving target that Rubio did discuss in his 13 tweet shout out yesterday saying, hey, look, how do we count who qualifies for this? Is it my 10? So maybe you're a business that's heavy with 1099 subcontractors. Speaking to what you initially it was understood that these people and their dollar amounts can be included in our calculation. Then it was stated that no, you know what? If you think about it, they can't be, because if those people are truly self-employed, they can go out and get their own SBA loan. So carve out those 1099s, they're not considered employees for this. So George, if last year you had 0 employees and you know, hey, I'm going to go on a hiring rampage, maybe that's an aggressive phrase, but you know you're going to go on hire some people. Square one is to look at last year and say, we're going to give you 2.5% of your last year's payroll figures, utilities, rents. So if last year that figure was nothing and this year you're anticipating it being 10 grand, you're not going to get it because they're not going to give you that based on what you put forth of your operational overhead on the application.
Okay. So
does that make sense?
George, did that answer for you? Yeah. So Anthony, can you walk us through the process? I filled out both of the applications, but maybe you could walk people through the process of the one pager, which I think is 7A, right? Was the one pager, and the
7B. But the 7B is probably what you've done. If you said you filled out both,
yeah.
The 7B is probably what you filled out, the one pager. You did that right on the SBA website. Maybe you've done that with last year's returns and you've populated figures from the returns with what looks like they're looking for on the one pager. So pretty much what you've done there is throw your hat into the ring. And again, initially it was interpreted as, hey, within 3 days is when you'll get this 10,000 or this grant money. Right. Now it's kind of more specific to, hey, once it's assigned to somebody, which should be within 2 to 3 weeks, usually within 3 days from there is when you'll get that money. That's going to begin the conversation with them and say, okay, here is now supporting documentation that we may need. Here are some questions that we might have for you based upon you're now dealing with the SBA. Or if we're handling it for you, you'll notice on that one pager, there is an option to say, hey, please speak to this individual on our behalf.
Right.
The SBA does traditionally like to speak to you directly, but whether we are on a 3-way call and or if you do say, this makes me nervous, I have nothing to do with it, please call my accountant, my attorney. Certainly with that checked and your blessing, they'll speak to us directly. Because again, from there, they may dive into specifics or intricacies of the tax return or your books and records that you don't know. Okay, so once this is now handed to what we'll call an underwriter or a representative at the SBA is when now our ball starts rolling. And traditionally, I'd say within a 2-week span, that should all be done and we should be well on our way to receiving the money.
All right, so then anybody who's filled out the application now is going to wait to be contacted by the SBA. And then that will trigger the next steps. Because last week, I think it was last Friday, not this past Friday, last Friday, the president, I'm sorry, no, it was actually last Thursday, just passed. The president and the Treasury Secretary said on Friday, go to your local banks and you can get your money. And I think that caused panic and a bunch of people, trying to call the banks or go to the banks to go get their money. So do you know anything? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, and this too was certainly a run on the banks now, because similarly, everybody is thinking, hey, open for business. They're going to start accepting these applications on Friday. Now, again, if you were the first in line, many of the banks were not doing it on Friday because they had no direction from the SBA. They're still trying to interpret what counts, who counts, and chances are, if you put in an application, it might have been put in incorrectly. If you use the figures that they're now determining are not part of your payroll overhead, the bank, so you could also go armed with the 7A, the SBA application. The banks may also now have their own application because, like we said, now this is a bank product. This is no longer an SBA product. It's backed by the SBA through your bank. Right. So your bank, and a lot of the banks now, what they're doing is saying, hey, if they've got so inundated with people, if you don't have an account there, a lot of them are turning you away. Or making it a requirement that you open up an account there, so they're just so overwhelmed with misdirection, confusion, that they're actually telling people, hey, look, you know what, only if we have kind of a history of you. Again, this is not a piece of paper that you're going to go there, and we've got some tools that we could forward to people, which are loan calculators to see how much you would qualify for. We've got an integrated chart of what and a checklist of everything you're going to need. You're going to need your certificate of incorporation, your bylaws, your payroll reports. You're going to want to go proper just to cut down the amount of time that goes back and forth, because much like getting a mortgage, you're applying for a loan, said it earlier, and they're just overwhelmed with the amount of people applying right now. So the least back and forth you can do, really, the better. We've got a whole checklist that if anybody wants to comment or whatever, we'll be able to make sure that they get everything that those banks are going to need for those 7A loans.
So Anthony, would you give everybody your website so that they know where, or your email so that
Absolutely.
They can get that checklist?
Thank you much. Yeah, my website is www.mytaxfella with an F, mytaxfella.com. And people can, I guess, get to me through you. They could also email me at my full name, Anthony, Mauriello, at mytaxfella.com. That'll come directly to me. We'll get you information. We'll get you assistance. We'll make sure it goes as smooth as possible.
So, George, is there anybody that has a particular question for Anthony, or should I just continue to go with my next question?
Yeah. And you know what, Leticia, I was going to offer that maybe we can segue now into those individuals.
Yeah.
And here too, I've got a flow chart of if you're unemployed and you're a W-2 employee, because now part of this program, they've expanded it. Prior to this disaster, if you're self-employed, behind you, George, if you're self-employed, you are not able, incoming, you're not able.
Uh-oh, we lost George's.
George is on mute. Prior to now.
Okay. Feels like Les Nesbitt in the newsroom. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So unemployment. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yes. So prior to this, if you were self-employed, if you're a small business, you're a sole proprietor or an LLC, up until now, unfortunately, you would not be able to collect state unemployment unless you had a private plan. I've also got a flow chart of who you might be and where you would go to apply for unemployment, because they have opened up the unemployment to now include anybody who is self-employed, owner of a single member LLC. There's some guidelines if you've have been employed within the last 6 months, but they have expanded the program. And in addition to that, they're also offering another $600 on top of whatever your state unemployment benefit currently is, which you'll get automatically. That comes through your state. When you apply for your state unemployment, that extra $600 will be included at that level. And then there's also an expansion of this. This goes a little further. So, you know, and there too, I think, I don't know if it's up to 6 point something, but when I heard everything was crashing down on the unemployment, it was 3.3 million people trying to apply. So you can imagine the phone lines, the internet access to put your claim in is very, very bottlenecked right now. But we encourage people, just get out there, speed dial, make sure you get through, because those unemployment benefits are available to everybody. They've waived that yet. Usually there's like a 1 or 2 week waiting period that they've waived now. They've done away with. You could go to any bank that is an SBA approved bank, and I even have a list of SBA approved banks in this package that I could forward to people. Like I say, you know, we might find an SBA approved bank, but if you don't currently have an account there, they may turn you away. But I've got a list of all of the SBA approved banks that I could send out to people. No. Correct. You do not have to hire back employees, because look, maybe they unemployment is juicy right now. You know, if you're in Jersey, they're paying you $700 plus this additional $600. That's $1,300. So that may be more than you were making underemployed. So you might be reaching back out to an employee who might say, hey, you know what, I'm kind of enjoying this right now. Or maybe they sought employment elsewhere. So it does not have to be you rehiring the same employees, as long as our number count is the same. Pretty much.
Yeah, so the stimulus check, so the personal checks now, we, you know, senior citizens, my parents don't necessarily file income taxes. So can you go through with those checks, you know, who's eligible, who's not eligible, you know, what's the cutoff? Is it, you know, married, you know, that we hear the number 75,000
Yeah,
so then we heard that check. So the personal, what do you know about those individual checks?
So yeah, we're talking about $1,200 stimulus checks that are going to go out for every individual, $2,400 if you're married filing a joint return, and then an additional $500 if you have children 16 or under. Now, thresholds for do I qualify, like you said, Leticia, if I'm single, that's $75,000, and if I'm married, it's $150,000, which means if my adjusted gross income is above these thresholds, I'm going to get less of a benefit. It's not going to stop, like it's not a hard stop at that point. I think you lose that about $5 for every $100 you earn over these limits. Okay, and I think it'll stop at about $198,000 on a married filing joint return. So if you're married filing joint and your income is $160,000, you'll still qualify for the benefit, just not as much. You'll get a little bit less of a credit, but you certainly still will receive it.
And that's based on the 2019 numbers, right? Even if you, so if you didn't file your taxes because we did all get an extension, you need to file them now if you're within that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Strategic planning alert here is that, and that's somewhat of the beauty of planning. We have many times, it's not uncommon to have a client who maybe got vested stocks or a bonus or 1 year spiked and the next year went down.
Right.
If you didn't file your 19, if you did not file your 19, I was high-fiving you, George, so I know why if you didn't file your 19 return yet, and you know you qualify in 18, but maybe don't in 19 because you got a bonus or a severance package or what have you, maybe we hold off and leave you on extension, get your check, because they will base it on 18.
Okay.
So if you file 19, they're going to use 19. If you didn't, they're going to use 18.
Okay.
Maybe the opposite is true. Maybe 18 you're very high, 19 you drop down. We better, although you have until July, get in here and do those returns, because they're going to base it off of 19 if that is what's filed.
So it's the last filed return. So everybody
Correct.
should understand that, and they should talk to their accountant. And again, if you don't have one, I strongly recommend Anthony. You should give him a call. He knows what he's talking about, and he can help you through this. So, and what about senior citizens that don't file tax returns?
So yeah, and this was another moving target a little bit. Initially, the advice to us was, hey, any senior citizen who has not filed a return should file in order to get this check. We had a ton of calls. I guess the AARP is closed with the virus going around. A ton of people very upset who had either used the AARP or reached out to them purely to file the return to get the stimulus check. Later, the guidance came out that they do not have to. If your parents or if your relative or if you are only on Social Security and do not have to file a return, they're not going to put a burden on you to go out and file this tax return. They're going to verify your identity from the Social Security records. They're going to see that you qualify, and using the same bank account that your Social Security check is directly deposited, they're going to use that bank account to make sure that your stimulus check is directly deposited into that account.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay. Right. That's going to be part of your overall, and again, planning alert. Who qualifies as a dependent or not? And this is a topic we can get into. But if you are a married couple and you have one child, you're going to get $2,900. So you're going to get the $2,400 to be a married couple, and then that $500 additional check for the dependent who is on your tax return. So they're not going to receive their own $500 check. That's going to be included within yours based on the filing status and those, what we used to call dependents, and those dependents who are listed on your tax return.
I got one of those.
Yeah, so if they're claimed on your taxes, that's a good question. I'm going to say no. However, I honestly don't know if Social Security would view them, or if when the IRS gives these checks out, if they're going to say, hey, here's a senior who doesn't have to file, let's dispatch that check to them of $1,200, or if they're going to be sophisticated enough to say, hey, this senior has been claimed as a dependent on somebody, hence thus shouldn't be entitled to it. So honestly, that is also one of these things that are yet to be seen. I would think logically, which doesn't always trump the day, logically I would think no. Yet I want to feel like there's quite a good possibility that they too will receive this check. Only because, and if you think about it, if we backtrack a little bit, if you did have these seniors file a return, although they weren't required to, therein I would indicate, hey, I'm claimed on somebody else's return and not entitled to it. They would know immediately. This way, I think it's a little more ambiguous, so I'm not sure.
And because it's such a a moving target. If at any point someone feels that they've been denied or they weren't given a fair shake in the first go round, they could appeal the process, right? I mean, that's especially when you get your accountant, you secure somebody who understands dealing with the IRS and the Treasury, and say, go fight for this for me because I believe I'm entitled to it, right? I mean, that's what I would do in this type of situation.
Absolutely. We get a lot of business like that, and we also get a lot of business who are non-filer, individual. I mean, I use the word business, but we get a lot of individuals who are non-filers. And this really shook the tree a little bit, because within the past week, maybe we've had 10 to 20 people who say, hey, I'll be honest, I haven't filed a return since 15. I had a guy who called out of the country. Hey, I mean, news travels fast. Hey, I heard that the IRS has given out $1,200. I've been in Italy the last 3 years. File my returns. So even multi-year non-filers have this window to come forward, get those returns on file. And here's another speaking point. This is truly a stimulus and an economic boost. If you owe back tax money, they will still give you this stimulus check, unlike your refunds. So if you owe your taxes from 2015 and we file in 19 and you're due a refund, they're going to apply that to your balance. If you have any tax money due, these stimulus checks will still come to you.
Oh, that's good information to know, because I know that there's a lot of small businesses. Look, small business is not usually, we're not used to having the government help us. It's always other people that get help, whether it was Sandy or 9/11, we never get help. So I know so many people who I said, did you apply for your loans, for your SBA loans, for your payroll? And so many people told me, oh, no, I won't qualify. There's, I do too much. I make too much money. blah, blah, blah. And I say to them, apply. Don't just presume you don't qualify. Apply and see what happens, because why should you struggle if there's an opportunity to be able to keep people employed? Why would you lose what you put your whole life into if there's an opportunity to get some assistance from the government? Am I wrong when I tell them that, Anthony?
You're not. I think, like you said, it's always like not in my backyard or not me or that feeling of maybe even pride. But I think at this point on this application process, you've really got nothing to lose so long as we cross our T's, as long as we dot our I's, because we are the lifeblood, especially what you guys do. We are the lifeblood of the economy. And I think that when the new normal emerges from all of this, business is definitely going to change. And you want to be poised and adapt to that change. And that's going to require resourcefulness. It's going to require money. It's going to require planning. I think, long gone are the days of excess and just pushing through. I think people are going to be a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more reserved. And if you can do that and strategically have accessibility to money or the resource that is human beings and your staff, that's why these programs are there for you.
That's good. And I think that, I know that this sounds crazy, but George and I have spoken about this often. Now might be the time for people who always wanted to be their own boss, who wanted to be an entrepreneur, to take a look at how the world is changing and if there's a niche that they can fill. And as you said, the disaster loans are about retaining the businesses that are here now, but there's still programs going forward for new businesses. Maybe right this minute is not the best time to apply because the world is kind of crazy with trying to keep what's there now. But projecting out after we recover, after the virus is gone, and looking at what the world is going to look like in the future, it may be worth it for people to say, hey, look, I've been in a job that I hate for 10 or 15 years. I'm on unemployment now. Maybe this is an opportunity for me to think about, becoming my own boss and opening a new company based on something that, filling a void. So that type of planning, is that something that your office does too? If somebody has a great idea for a business, would they come in to see you and talk to you?
That is something we love to wax philosophic about all the time, even not in times like this, without a doubt. Because if you look historically, it's in these recessions, depressions. I mean, it averages every 10 years that something like this happens. And a lot of good, like a phoenix rising, a lot of good resourcefulness comes out of this, whether it's a brainchild, whether it's something you've always wanted to do. George, we were speaking earlier, even with the kids doing homeschooling through Zoom video, or this is going to change the trajectory, I think, of not only the human race, but how business is done and composed. And, again, where you now realize, hey, maybe being on 3 floors of an office building is not as efficient as everybody working remotely. And you would think that companies like Zoom would flourish. And I think there are times and instances like this that are the birthplace of fantastic new ideas. And it's got to start with each one of us.
Yeah, and so many people right now are feeling so psychologically depressed or isolated. And I like to say, now's the time when you're there with yourself and your family and you're alone with your thoughts. Here's the time when you can either turn your life to a positive or fall into the negative. And if you're seeking advice, there are people out there that can help you do it. And Anthony Mauriello is certainly one of those people that can, help you pull together your dream and make it a reality and keep you grounded. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm not a big money girl. I'm more about love than money, but you got to have money to make the world go round. And Anthony certainly kept the Vaughn Agency on the right track for the last 9 years, and we certainly appreciate that. And he can help you too. And if you already have a terrific accountant, you should go and speak to that accountant and talk to that person about your dreams, because now's the time to do it. Now is when the world is changing. Now's the time that you could shed whatever burdens you might have had in your job and maybe look for something different and employ people while you're at it right here in America. And that's always a good thing. So, yeah.
Sure. So the SBA, on the SBA B, and that's the 7B plan, you're looking at a 3.75%. If you're a traditional business, a 2.75% if you are a nonprofit. The way the payroll protection plan is going to work is, like I said, hopefully that's 100% forgivable. If it's not, it's 1% for the first 2 years, and then it could be refinanced at the end of those 2 years for a 4% rate. So, for instance, if last year at this time I had $10,000 worth of payroll, they're going to give me $25,000 2.5 times. If I didn't do what I said I would do, if I didn't use this to payroll protect and my figures fell off and they've already given me the money, the rest of it's going to default to a loan. So that's going to be at 1% for the first 2 years and then refinance out. Mm-hmm. There is, and I'm a landlord, I'm a tenant, I'm both sides of that equation. I'm telling everybody, hey, start with the relationship with your bank. There's a difference between how the banks are handling these. So for instance, one of my tenants is a restaurant. For them, I know they've been shuttered, they've been closed. I went to the bank immediately, even before they came to me, explained the situation. The bank was phenomenal at saying, hey, listen, we're going to defer your payments for 6 months. Now, that doesn't mean we're forgiving it. What we're going to do is after those 6 months, we're going to look at what you owe us, and we're going to add that to your monthly payment as like a piggyback loan until that's paid off. Another bank said, hey, we're going to defer your payment for 3 months, but then on the 4th month, we want that due. And then yet another bank said, we're going to defer you for 3 months, and we're going to add it to the end. We're going to extend the term of your loan for 3 months. So the first thing I do is try to have that conversation, both sides, at my level as a human being. Hey, can I speak to my bank? Can I speak to my tenant? See where we can go with that. But then yes, actually there's some other options. If you want to get me that email, I'll send some opportunities and some options there of what could be done as far as seeking assistance.
So speaking of now, how about some mortgages and credit cards? I think you just touched on it, but let's be crystal clear. Some people think that because the governor and the president have said, they can't foreclose for 90 days and whatever. Can you just, again, the person needs to call their bank. It's not automatic, right? They have to call their bank.
It's not automatic.
All right.
Yeah, do not take it upon yourself to just not pay or ignore, whether it's because even your primary residence, maybe you are somebody who has been, maybe it's not a landlord tenant, but it's you. Maybe you've been laid off. Maybe you can no longer afford to pay your mortgage. There is assistance there, but you cannot just say, oh, well, I have a 3-month ride. You've got to fill out an application. It's got to be approved. And then you have to understand what terms they're offering you. So, and again, just like we said earlier, to maintain integrity, there's help there for people. If you call the retention department of your utility bills, call the retention department of your cell phone carrier, of your TV, ask for help. Everybody's in this boat together. And I think if you're currently unemployed and home anyway, make a list of all of your utility companies, all of your service providers. See what, if anything, they're willing to do to help you, because I guarantee you there's help out there. These companies don't want to lose a ton of their business, and you'll see it. HBO just gave 500 hours of content for free. There's a lot out there that is meant to help you. You just have to ask for it and look for it.
Yeah, and now's the time really to do it. You said it, we're all in it together, because if you've been a good paying customer, the last thing that they want to do is lose you. So they're going to do whatever they can, renegotiate or do what they can. I think that this is funny, Anthony. I every month get, when I pay my mortgage, I get this notice, oh, refinance your mortgage, get a better rate. And as soon as all of this happened and we heard that the interest rates went to 0, I called up my mortgage company and said, hey, I want to refinance my mortgage. That was a month ago, and I still haven't heard back from them. And I guess that's because they don't know what's going on either. So I'm being very patient, but I think it's funny that I reached out after them, bothering me to refinance. I actually asked them for a refinance, and they said it straight out. Hey, listen, we are being inundated. It's going to take us a little time, but this was 4 weeks ago, and I still haven't heard from my mortgage company. So I'm going to be persistent, and I guess that everybody out there should be persistent. They should keep on calling until they get people on phone and talk to them. And is this the time to also to renegotiate like percentage rates for credit cards and things like that?
Absolutely, straight across the board, absolutely. And again, that may lead to a taxable event. If a credit card says, or if you could negotiate away some of the debt and they're willing to forgive a portion of your debt, they're going to give you a 1099-C, a cancellation of debt form that may or may not be taxable when we file your tax return for 2020.
Huh?
Yeah. And a lot of times people don't, because maybe it's not explained to them up front. And then George, you got really close there, man. Hello. Then all of a sudden they come in with these, because as you did it, I did too. Then they come in with these forms, sometimes after we've already filed the return, saying, hey, I got this cancellation of debt form. What do I do with it? So yeah, ask questions. Ask questions of who you're speaking to. Ask for benefits. Ask, for retention. Tell them you're thinking of cutting the service just to make ends meet, and you'd be amazed at what you can get out there.
All right. Well, it's 11 o'clock, so I know that Anthony is very busy, and so we'll wrap up now. George, do we have any other outstanding questions that we need Anthony to answer? Okay, well, Anthony, again, my tax fella, Anthony Mauriello, he has offices in Staten Island and New Jersey. I highly recommend him. If you don't have an accountant yet, definitely reach out to Anthony. But he's also very helpful, and as he said, email him, and he will give you some worksheets so that you can follow along with what's going on. Anthony, thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you guys both. Pleasure to see you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and if anybody wants another expert, please just reach out to us at the Bond Agency, and we will do another one of these segments. So everybody have a great day. Stay safe and wear your gloves and wash your hands.
Take care. Thank you.